podcast is Homestuck. I am welcoming back Rhys, and new to the podcast is Nell, and we're going to talk about SAHcon some more because it was a big event and very, very important. So yeah, you guys are getting 3 episodes on it. So do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So you guys have probably heard me in a past episode if you're listening in order. I was here not that long ago reviewing Act 3, and I'm also a part of SAHcon staff. So I acted as the con manager and am here to talk more about SAHcon. Also, notably, since I was last on this podcast, I have finished Homestuck. Applause is accepted.
How do you feel?
That could be an episode in and of itself. We will.
We can talk after this is over. I'm Nell. I go by @NellCromancer on the Twitter. I'm also a part of SAHcon staff. And you know, I just talk about Kanaya a lot. That's all you need to know about me. Is I'm just here to talk about Kanaya and apparently also SAHcon.
Nell and I like to say that I am Nellken and Nell is Rhysken, but both of us are Kanaya-ken.
Yeah, this is...
And that's a good description of us.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of topics to talk about from SAHcon. We is going to be some of the same that I talk about with Crow, but I mean, there's going to be different perspectives on it. So do you want to talk about the planning of everything?
Oh, God, yeah.
Sure, I can.
You want to go first?
So planning was eventually, it was a group effort. I think eventually I ended up doing a lot of the technical work of planning just as manager. Nell was actually the one to suggest that I become manager because I am a masochist who enjoys spreadsheets and scheduling. So
it was like we kept doing the same things, and I was like, Rhys, we need, like, Crow was like the artistic lead, so to speak, like very much the creative core of the project, and Rhys and I at the start when we both were brought on were like trying to keep Crow's more wild like ideas in the realm of reasonable reality, and like to that point I was like, one of us needs to be the to actually be the producer on this project, like the project manager, and we nominated Rhys because Rhys is actually really good at that stuff. No, listen, I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again on air, that I do not think this con would have been nearly as successful if we hadn't had you running, like keeping everybody in, like, the loop.
You're so sweet. No, thank you. I mean, I kind of come from a background, as does Nell, where I am very, I'm very creative, and I have wild creative ideas too. I'm not so good at keeping my ideas in check for myself, but I do have a talent of kind of gathering a lot of other people's ideas into something more reasonable. I wish I could do it with myself, but I can't. But the planning period was definitely, I think it was about 3 months. And I also think I was one of the last staff members brought on. So I live with Kat, who was another staff member, and Crow was hanging out at our apartment, and Kat and Crow were talking about SAHcon. And I thought, I love Homestuck. And I have staffed a physical convention for several years, so maybe I could help. And we started talking, and I mean, I think Crow's interview, quote unquote, for me was, who was the best character in Homestuck? And I listed a few people, and then as soon as I said Aridin or Cronus, no, I said Aridin, and they were kind of like, well, you're close. And then I said Cronus, and they were like, oh, you're hired.
Yeah,
I remember being like, we were talking, they were talking about SAHcon as an idea to me, and like not long after they were like, I was like, well, if you need help like planning or moderating it, I'll be available. I don't have a life. And like not long after, they're like, are you still interested? I'm like, yes. They're like, great. And then I was in SAHcon and
I think it really,
which was way more involved.
Oh yes,
than what I was expecting.
I think once all of us were finally in the Discord and a little more organized, we had maybe about a week where all of us really were just starting to push one another. Like, we have to get this started. We don't have much time. We already had the date set, but we did not have the infrastructure there yet.
Right. Anything planned. We didn't have anything planned when they got, like, by the time it got announced, there was almost
there was a lot of initially a little bit frantic. I think we got comfortable, once we started getting all rolling and really set down a schedule for meeting regularly and our Google Calendar. Once we got our Google Drive up, this isn't like a sponsored podcast for Google, but we really did utilize like
it was the Google show featuring Google Docs.
Yes, it was. And I think like once we got our rhythm going, it became a lot easier and things just kind of came more naturally. But it was a lot. I mean, I could spend an entire episode just talking about planning because it did take so long and there was so much effort. But yeah, on the whole, it was really fun, like to collaborate with my friends. And like there were stressful times, but
it was yeah, it fluctuated between being really rewarding and really fun and really stressful and like costing me sleep at night, like on a like weekly basis. It was like flip a coin. Is it gonna be like a fun week or is it gonna be a week that things are
Right.
due and people aren't ready?
But as it is with any project, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help that we all have like other jobs and stuff going on, and most people who were working on this were like not at all had like jobs that like weren't consistent week to week. So that made like meetings a lot more.
Yes, I will say as the manager and the person who ended up being responsible for scheduling meetings, again, not a sponsored post, but doodle.com is the best asset in the world. It's so simple, but it's just such a good way to be able to get everyone's schedule for a long period of time, like when people are and aren't available. And we lived by that. Doodle and Google Calendar. And with 5 people who, 3 of us live near each other, but the others do not. And just because I live with someone does not mean that my schedule is anywhere near there. And so I think really one of the biggest challenges was just making sure we could all be available because we're all students or have full-time jobs or part-time jobs or freelance jobs or some combination of the above. Yeah.
Or all of the above.
We made it work.
Sometimes.
So
yeah.
I'm just
I really am like I'm even after the fact I'm still like astonished at how like it was and I definitely said this during one of the panels that I was on. I'm like, it's like behind the scenes kind of a mess, but like surprisingly successful considering basically everything going against us. I think so too.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so like I can't believe that I'm just making a podcast episode right now about an event that was mostly successful and it happened and all of our work paid off.
Like almost 2,000 people showed up.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Can I swear on this? I'm gonna swear on this.
Yeah, no, swear a bunch. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that was planning.
Awesome.
I don't know if you had any specific things you wanted to ask about planning, but
no, it was I mean, I think I'm sure Crow talked about how they had the they had their initial inspiration from like a
yes.
brony convention.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Which is cool, but their big thing they wanted to have was an artist alley, which I wasn't sure was gonna work, but like from what I've heard from the artists was that it was like an extremely lucrative like event for them, which was really exciting to hear. Like that actually worked, because I was maybe a little skeptical at the start of it. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, the artist alley was a really good thing. I didn't really peruse it too much myself, but from what I've heard of people both who commissioned and who received the commissions, like it was a really good deal.
Yeah.
So kind of speaking of artist alley and everything else, you had to create a lot of resources. The server, you had a bunch of forms to fill out. You had a whole lot going on. How did you kind of organize creating all those resources and everything? And how did you know all the resources you'd have? Like you had the website, you had various social platforms.
So
like
pretty early on, we assigned or did our best to assign people with certain responsibilities. And I think this is a little bit where I came in as manager and just making sure that everyone has a job to do. And if they're not able to do it, because life is always crazy for all of us, that we found someone else. I actually think it was Nell who made the suggestion pretty early. We need to just start adding everyone in the Discord channel all the time.
Yeah, it really was. It was like, because I know I have a lot of servers I'm a part of, and I tend to like mute everything except for @everyone notifications, because otherwise my phone and computer would be unusable.
Yeah.
And even now, I keep myself mostly on Do Not Disturb, not because I don't want to be disturbed, but because, like, the toast notifications on my desktop while I'm working are extremely infuriating and extremely distracting. So it's like, I need us to be, like, if we need a response, we need to @ someone so that it shows up somewhere in their notification feed, to get people moving. Right. And that was really helpful.
Thank you so much. But I'm glad, because as soon as you said that, it helped. It was great. I think it really made everyone feel okay to start contacting other staff directly.
We had to, well, because there's a taboo against using like the @everyone on Discord, and we did organize almost exclusively through Discord. Another plug, Discord is the only social media site that actually fucking works.
Yeah.
I will say that Crow had definitely worked on and mostly solidified all the social media and the website prior to my joining as staff. And again, I joined a little bit late, but Crow really did a lot of the work in terms of making the Twitter, making the Tumblr, making the website, especially the website, via WordPress.
Yeah, they for the longest time, they were the only person with the password to the website. And so, like, I think, like, 2 weeks in, I got the password and did some work on it as well. Just to make sure that panel links were working and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it was like we tried really hard and didn't always succeed to like divvy things up between all of our staff members. Like people would be I know that one, like, Gumi was in charge of all of the artist alley submission form, and I was in charge of making the guest panel submission form, and we all were in charge of getting in contact with different guests, and being like the point of the go-betweens between them, because just due to us being like from different parts of like the Homestuck fandom, just the people we had contact with were very different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was the one to reach out to Sarah Zadig of the YouTube channel Let's Talk About Stuff, to ask her if she wanted to be involved, and I know that Kat was involved, got Naked Bee involved, as well as some other people, and it was like utilizing the fact that we all sort of knew people in the like in the Homestuck sphere of influence. TM helped us actually bring in like as many guests as we managed to get.
And we did also have in our Google Drive TM, we had a few different documents where we just listed to-do lists or things that we needed to make or blurbs that we needed to write. And utilizing that was a really good way for all of us to collaborate in terms of, okay, here is a draft, at least for something that we could post on the Twitter or, a blog for the website. Same with Google Forms. Again, it was all collaborative. Usually there would be one person who would kind of put up an idea of what we would eventually publish, usually after a staff meeting where we all discussed it. And I think I tended to be the person who revised everything just because I offered to. I am a copy editor, so I was happy to use, that skill just to make sure everything looked clean. But everything came together pretty naturally, I think, for most of our forms and resources, because we all had kind of our own way that we were able to contribute. And I just the fact that we were able to do this entirely online is really incredible, and it speaks a lot to
really cool.
how technology has influenced fandom and the ability for all of us just to get together and make something like this. And I'm not realizing this so much until right now as I'm talking about it, but really all of this was, even though I live near two of the other staff members and live with one of them, we were often in our own rooms while we were having these meetings, and like we would occasionally talk about it in person, but all of the resources that we created as a group were done collaboratively via tools, online tools, and not working together in person.
It really was the most Homestuck possible.
It's so true.
Convention.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the only way to do a Homestuck.
It's the perfect
really.
way.
Yeah, and yeah.
So speaking with all these online resources, you also had to gather a lot of helpers, whether it was moderators or anything else. Primarily moderators, I think. But so how did you go about getting those people? I believe Crow mentioned something about a moderator form that got sent out, which I didn't actually see. But yeah, I hear you didn't get a lot of submissions for that one.
We tried to send them out to servers that we knew about.
Okay.
That had people that we trusted. Because the issue with moderating on any sort of convention is that the people you hire to mod have to be in some way autonomous, and there needs to be a degree of trust in being this person, I know this person and I respect their I respect the way that they can they handle themselves online, and don't mind associating with them, or having them be represent the larger convention. And it was definitely a trust thing. So we sent it out, and we did not get a lot. And this was before we knew that there was going to be almost 2,000 people showing up for the convention. So we were like, okay, this is not quite as many as we want, but we can deal with it. We could not deal with it, and we realized the night before that we needed more people on board badly. So we asked a lot of people who are already doing panels if they'd be willing to also have mod powers and check in on rooms.
And I think it helped a lot. Nell and I worked a bit ahead of time, even before we knew who specifically would be modding. We knew that we needed a certain amount of people, which turned out to be less than we would have had ideally. But we knew that we wanted to have a certain amount of people. And so Nell and I worked to make a spreadsheet, at least a schedule of something that the staff and the moderators could use to say, okay, for this hour, at least keep an eye on this channel. So like a physical convention, we had a schedule in which we could say, be here during this time, be here during the next time. So we switched off shifts, and it helped a lot, I think, at least for variety. But I mean, just gathering helpers as a whole was incredibly difficult this first time. Because like Nell mentioned, we didn't know how many people we would have. We thought maybe we would have 500 people. And we had almost 2,000, which is
500 is definitely
which is incredible. But our core moderation team was much smaller than it needed to be. And so we did have some issues last minute asking some other people, hey, could you possibly fill in this slot, or could you mod this channel for this number of hours while you're not doing your panel? And next year, I'm really looking forward to getting that mod application out much earlier, having some set rules for mods, and being able to spend some more time on the people who are representing the convention, so we don't have to stress out our moderators, so that we don't have conflict between the moderators and the con attendees, and just so that it runs more smoothly, because we really want all of this to be we want it to be fun. And even for us, even for the mods and for the staff, we're not being reimbursed for this, and we just want everyone to have a good time safely. And so finding people who can do that is going to be more of a priority next year.
To be like a little critical of us, I think the way we handled the modding situation was probably like the weakest thing we did. That's the one thing I have, I think, the most complaint with. Just that we didn't open it. We didn't open the forms up to enough people in time. We didn't give them enough plans, and we didn't have enough resources for the mods and enough guidelines for them. Definitely next time we need like an etiquette guide, at least, honestly, for the mods. Some sort of like a rule book that they can look through and say, like, this is like an acceptable way of like shutting down a conversation, and this is like an unacceptable way of shutting down a conversation. This is a like an acceptable way of requesting somebody not talk about a topic, and this is not. Like giving them a format for them to like know what is how they are expected to behave while working the capacity as a mod, I think will definitely be better, because I know that there have been a couple complaints about that sort of stuff, and it's something we don't want to have a repeat of.
And as the person who, like, I guess as the resident copy editor of the staff, I, even during the con, was immediately thinking, oh, okay, so next year I'm going to be writing this style of guide, this style of rules, and I'm going to be doing it a month before the con, at least.
We also needed to, like, at very last minute, overhaul the rules for the con themselves, because they were not worded well.
Yeah.
And a little, like, they weren't helpful for anyone. And that's something we need to do, even another revision on for next time. Get those squared away beforehand, so that people know what is and isn't acceptable.
We have a lot of things that we discovered very quickly, as we got more and more people and more styles of conversation and socialization that we need to be more clear about what is acceptable and what's not acceptable on the server. And so I know that Chat. So I know that there's later on in our podcast outline, I believe we'll have, talk more about future plans, but definitely working more on gathering the moderators earlier will be great. But, as we did with the small group of people we had, I think we did a fantastic job. And even just a huge special thanks to those moderators who joined last minute, including you, Jax. We are really grateful. Really jumped in. I mean, like, not only participated, but like just threw yourselves into moderating with very little notice once we recognized how many attendees we would have. Without those people, we could not have done as well as we did.
No, it was like, we planning this thing went right up to the wire, and then even past the wire a little bit. Like, there were some things, like, we had to get rid of a couple of channels like in the middle of the convention, just because it was like, we can't have people we can't ask moderators to like sit in like a voice chat because there's just not enough of a barrier between like what a person says and who's saying it, and like all of these other things. There just wasn't a good way of doing it, so we had to make a snap decision to get rid of that. We did things like, we had to change how we were announcing panels very early, or like midway through the convention. So it really was like as much of a like, you can only plan so much, and then like the actual event happens and you have to react to it.
For sure.
It was, I think, like, it was very exciting and very stressful. The first like 2 to 3 hours was like a mix of being like, this is running really well, and going, oh no, everything's falling down around me. This is going to be a disaster.
Well, and I know we had wanted to talk about like the morning of the convention as well, because there was a lot of things that both the staff and the moderators kind of did to prepare. I mean, even if not outwardly apparent, I think all of us had to really get ready to be able to make those snap decisions. Like, I know I was up at 6 a.m. Maybe even a little earlier, like maybe 5:30. I was at Coherence at 6.
4.
Yeah, Nell has us all beat. She was like just on top of this.
I had a panic dream and woke up at 4 a.m. and did not go back to sleep, despite the fact that I took like melatonin. I just stayed awake, staring at my ceiling, having a slow anxiety attack.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much for us to deal with, and just knowing that it was about to happen. Like, we had been planning on this for months, and it was very surreal. Waking up and realizing, oh, this was today.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Like, there's a lot riding on it, and I don't want to be like narcissistic, but like, when you're associated with something like this, you are like putting your name on it, and like it becomes like a part of you, like a thing that you can like a point that people will like either give to you or take from you, and like nobody wanted it to go poorly, so there was a lot of tension, a lot of nerves leading up to the like actual like opening ceremony. There was like, I know, like internally, just a lot of for me at least, a lot of like stress about like, is this gonna go well? If it goes poorly, how poorly could it go? Like what sort of things can we do in case it starts to go wrong. I had to start thinking. I was basically, for the 3 hours before we started, just like panic planning a bunch of like countermeasures that we never had to use, but like I was planning.
And someone has to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think a lot were at least subconsciously planning for the worst, because it was something that we hadn't done before, and something that overall hasn't really been done much at all. Given that the convention was hosted online via Discord. I will say that our apartment was an interesting atmosphere to be in, because like I've mentioned, Kat and I live together, and Crow lives nearby, and so we decided to just have Crow come over. And so the morning very quickly turned into, okay, all of us are here, and this is the convention hub now. Like, even though there were so many people who were helping us from across the country and the world, we had 3 of the staff in this humble apartment with our sometimes spotty Wi-Fi, and we all just made it work. And having all of us kind of together in the same space in our living room was very energizing, because we each other and to say like, hey, like, okay, wake up, shift change, someone make coffee. Like, there was always there was more camaraderie there, and I think I was a staff member in that regard, that I had other people with me. There were parts of the day that I spent alone in my room, because the socialization, not only in person, but I mean just the fact that I had.
There was that's something I want to touch on too. Is just like the virtual socialization. Like, I was not expecting, because I spend a significant chunk of my day online.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm with like, a bunch of people online. It is not the same. It is closer to a convention than you're imagining if you did not go. Like, it is way closer to like con fatigue than you're expecting, because it is thousands of people you do not know interacting with you, like, and just everybody's talking, and it's not like a convention where you can just sort of like huddle into like a small group.
Your corner.
No, you can't create like a small group. Everybody has the exact same volume because everybody's using text, and like reading that like constant stream of text and having to be like, is this something that we can, like, is this something that, like, having to make gut checks, is this okay, is this not okay, should I like jump in, should I stay out, like, really, like, I was alone in my room, and I'm like, I said to my roommate after the day was done at about like 2 a.m, I think, when like the post-con wrap-up meeting finally ended, like, great, I'm looking forward to not talking to anybody for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, it did read very much like a physical convention. And as somebody who has worked security for several years at a physical convention, I can't say whether or not this was more or less exhausting. It took a different kind of energy, and yet just the constant stream of chat and information and a digital walkie-talkie, will, like in our mod, figuring out problems on the fly. I have to say, I think they're about equal. Like, if I'm going to be in security at a physical or digital convention, this might have actually been more stressful.
I think I haven't, but I would say, like, it's probably more stressful because, like, at a physical convention, you can only do so much. You can only see so many people at once, and you can only notice something going wrong if it's very obvious, or if somebody comes to get you. For like an online convention, for modding like a chat room, it's very different because you can see every message that passes you. like you read and internalize every conversation taking place,
and the attendees are going to hide behind,
which means like
at least to a level, they're going to hide behind they can't be completely anonymous. But I mean, we did have instances of fake accounts, you know, despite the fact that we did our best people could not join the server unless they had been members for a certain amount of time, etc. There were still situations in which we had individuals who wanted to come and interact with us in unsavory ways that would not have necessarily been able to happen in a physical convention.
Yeah, there were like things like we tried to model the moderation off of a physical convention. It doesn't work. Like there's no concept of like spamming in a physical convention. Like you don't have to worry about somebody using all 2,000 characters to make like an ASCII art image of somebody having his sexual intercourse in a chat room in like an actual convention. You don't have to worry about like there are different things you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about somebody like doing copy pasta erotic roleplay in
we had our own version of the Ahegao hoodies.
Oh my god, we really did. It really was the Ahiago hoodie situation, but like text format. It was like we had to keep because we were more like it's a more personal in a weird way. It is a more personal being online is more personal. You can call out a specific username as a tag. You can't just say, hey, keep an eye on a person in like a white vest and like red shoes. Like we could say like this person has been causing trouble, but not in an actionable way. So keep an eye on them. Which we used a couple of times for people that would make comments that were like off color, but not off color enough to be like warning. So we could be like, hey, I have to like if we're moving on or if this person comes into another room, just be aware that they've said something before that has leaned towards one of the mods considering them as like a potential chaotic element. I don't want to say like we didn't try and keep a list of people like, oh, this person said something that I don't agree with ethically. It was more like this person feels like they're trolling, but they haven't done anything that we can ban them for yet.
People know how to toe the line.
It is. It's really hard. It was really hard. It was really hard to be like, because I know that I'm not I'm pretty insensitive when it comes to like a lot of trolling. I feel like it doesn't I don't put a lot of like stock in it. It doesn't like affect me. So like I definitely felt like sometimes it was like this. Like, if it got to me being like this feels insincere and like just trying to get a rise out of people, I am going to like make a note of it and maybe try and talk to a person about it. Then like that was definitely at the point where like this is probably at the point where somebody or like the rest of the mods should like join in and tell me if this is good.
You know, and I think on the whole,
not.
like talking about mods kind of jumping in and helping each other out, like we did a really great job of adjusting as we went. You know, considering the trouble with panels and YouTube, which we haven't gotten to yet, but also like the sheer number of participants we had and people who did toe that line, which was a lot of folks. I'm proud of us.
Well, it wasn't a ton of folks.
A good enough number considering the amount of mods we had.
There was a lot of. I want to be like, we did a pretty good job.
I think we did a great job. I would say we did more than a pretty good job. I think we did a.
All right, I think it's. I mean, yeah, I think. I don't want to disagree with you because we definitely did the best with what we got. But I just want to say, like, next year,
of
I
course
don't
not.
want that to be our standard. I want our
Yes.
standards to be higher. So I'm looking at this, like, at the time, given the resources we had and like all of the nonsense that ended up happening in it, we did great. But it's not going to be like what we did this year is not going to be good enough for next year. We have to aim higher and be more professional about this. I think is the big thing.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. We learned a lot, and
Yeah,
we've already kind of touched on things that we want to
Just, like-
improve, and what we've touched on is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of things that we will definitely change.
Yeah, there's a lot to change.
Yeah, but I think given what we
Um,
had, we did well. And I think given that this was our first year, we had so many attendees. It was absolutely amazing to see everybody just being so social, and like so many people. I got messages from folks that said, like, thank you so much for doing this. We had a great time. Like, I met new friends. And
Me
yeah,
too.
I mean, that's
was
like
so
the
nice.
whole reason why we did
there was
this.
so many people like yeah, there was it was a lot. Like we definitely talked a lot about there being like a couple bad eggs and like some people who wanted to cause some level of chaos in the during the convention, but those were a minority compared to everybody who was actually having fun, and just like it was nice, like going in and seeing people just like being happy and having a good time and like meeting new people, like actually meeting new people in an online convention, which is like, that's so cool. That's so cool. It's so
I agree.
cool.
Yeah, definitely. It was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had some panels that we wanted to talk about. You want to?
Yeah, sure. Let's
just
do it.
say they.
So I was personally the mod for the panel room in the Discord. However, the way that we had our moderator schedule set up, and the way that the panels were set up, meant that a lot of panels were happening hosted on websites outside of the Discord. We had a few who were voice only and who hosted the panel via our voice chat. But just say they, and the majority of the other panels were hosted on YouTube or Twitch or Picarto, and there were some separate chats there. So from a moderator standpoint, as somebody who was mostly moderating the Discord, but who also popped into the panel and the chat, from what I saw, it went incredibly. I know I absolutely love the concept and the topic, and again, what I heard was great. Unfortunately, like just as a staff member, I heard parts and pieces of so many panels, but didn't get to see many of them, or really any of them at all, in full until after the convention. But as somebody who is a trans man himself, and at one time used they them pronouns before I really had settled into my identity, seeing this panel was one of the greatest things. Like I just wish that I had seen something like this at a physical convention before now. But there are so many people in Homestuck who wanted to tackle these topics that are so specific to the series itself, and I love the discussions that I was seeing. I only had to jump in, I think, as a mod on one comment that got a little bit too political for what we would allow at the convention in terms of, just being a little incendiary. But as a whole, it went great. And I think that the reception to topics that explored gender and gender non-conforming attitudes were awesome. And I was really happy to see that there weren't people who might have disagreed, which is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, so I was there for the whole thing. I think I was just modding like some of the smaller channels, so I was able to go back and forth between those pretty easily. And everyone was pretty engaged and fine with everything that was going on. It was just really nice panel to be in on. And as a non-binary person myself, like it was nice to see. And then, I mean, I might be biased because I'm friends with James,
but it's still so great to be able to see these gender headcanons becoming a panel. That's just something that at a physical convention, I don't think I've ever seen. I've never seen, and again, I don't go to huge conventions. I live in a place and am in a situation in my life where I can't travel very much. And so the only conventions I go to are local, and there's a couple, but not many. And I've never seen anything like this. And I just have to be so grateful for the people who submit panel ideas that are, exploring issues that might really help attend process feelings that they have themselves, process feelings they have about characters and canon. This was one of my favorite panels when we received the applications. I saw it and I was thrilled.
Yeah. Another favorite panel was Homestuck Unraveled.
Oh, yes. Oh, excellent work.
Which were we able to see this one? Yeah.
Oh man, Becca did such a good job.
Yes.
Becca at VRL at Vrils Rezzle. I don't know.
Riz Rezzy, but different.
Did this Riz Rezzy, but the I's are L's because Twitter. Did like a Polygon's Unraveled style send up of Homestuck characters.
It was who was the best Homestuck character?
Who is the most standable Homestuck character?
Yeah.
Math according
Which
to
was
their
so valid. Their math was solid.
It was well. it's great because it's the most subjective possible math. But it was so good. It was very funny. I highly recommend. It is one of the I don't think we've said this, but most of the panels have been archived on some streaming platform or another and are accessible through the links on our website.
Yep. Yeah, most of them are archived on YouTube. I have my own unofficial playlist of them.
Yeah, I think we've updated most of the links on the SAHcon panel list website, on the panelist page of our SAHcon website, which I think Crow did the majority of. So thank you again to Crow for biting the bullet and walking through your HTML chaos.
Oh yeah, so much HTML chaos happened.
Oh my god, it's just one like unbroken chunk of HTML that makes up 90% of the content on the website.
Oh my god.
And it's just like,
but one of the things about Homestuck Unraveled in particular is that I love, Becca and I are mutuals on Twitter, and so I loved getting to see all of the updates that were happening. I was so hype, and I know a lot of other people were hype, and then Becca had some technical difficulties, which was pretty common in amongst our panelists, given the fact that we were all streaming, from different places in the world with different internet connections, different websites who decided to fuck us over in the last minute. And yet I was so impressed the fact that we had to move back Homestuck Unraveled a little bit, but people were so patient. They were so excited to see this panel. And it ended up being a huge success. And I think that's a really good example of a lot of our attendees who are incredibly patient with the technical difficulties we had and the difficulties that panelists had in particular. And, as con staff, we can help with technical difficulties, but to an extent when we're hosting an online convention with panelists anywhere and everywhere, we can only do so much to help. And so we all did our best. We all worked very well together. And I think that the attendees still appreciated the panel and were very gracious about the delay. And I think this remained at least as far as I've seen in terms of interactions from the people that I follow, one of the more successful presentations.
Oh yeah. It was great. It was extremely funny and very good. I do like there were issues throughout with just like YouTube not wanting to like stream for people, or people's audio being too low, or like little things that like we could do if we were a physical do something about it if we were a physical convention, but since we were not on location with any of the panelists, it like remotely troubleshooting was very difficult, and like something we should think about for next year is definitely like having like a FAQ for getting shit up onto YouTube, or like streaming on Twitch in a like beforehand, so that people have like more of a like more guidance before the
right. I completely agree. And I think another panel like where that was pretty evident, maybe in a different way, was the Friendsim Fandub panel. This was like one of those panels that had a lot of last minute changes and adjustments that as staff were out of our control, and yet we did the best that we could to help the panelists really adjust what they were doing, and the panelists really stepped up to change their ideas last minute, and still present a panel that was, I think, really successful, and really exciting to watch, and they really made it work, especially when it seemed like kind of everything was going wrong staff's end and the planning end, and yet it presented so well. And as con staff for a lot of these panels, we had control over planning, and that was it. And we really rely on our to complete things on time, to work with last minute changes, to present the panels as they were described. And I'm so proud of our panelists, actually, because in situations where we fix them, and oftentimes the panelists worked with us staff to make sure that things were going to be okay. And if they had last minute changes, a lot of people came to us and said, hey, we're going to do this instead, but it'll still be okay, or hey, can we change our time slot? And a lot of it was last minute, and but it still works, and I don't know, I'm very proud of the community in general, and the people who stepped up, like our panelists and the assistant panelists who made it all happen.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
The Friends of Fandub was a really good panel, and I'm not just saying that because I made them talk about
I'm also in the Friends of Fandub. I'm Skyla, y'all. So I was like, the fact that Fandub had a panel at this con was so special to me, because this was one of the first Homestuck projects I got in on. When I auditioned for the Friendsim Fandub, I hadn't finished Homestuck. I was still reading it. But I love the Friendsim, and I love Skyla, and I'm a Southern boy, so I went for it, and I got her. And Skyla's my girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh gosh, I could wax poetic about the Friendsim Fandub, but I'll save it.
Yeah, that's another episode. Yeah, speaking of the Friendsim in general, we got
we
Lalo
did.
Hunt.
I was so happy that Lalo worked with us on a panel, particularly because they were not only one of the most influential artists, or I'm sorry, authors. Sorry guys, you might have to cut this out. I got really freaked out by my door opening. My fiance got home early and I didn't know what was happening. Okay, I'll start over about Lalo. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so Lalo was one of the most influential authors in the fandom. God, friends. I'm sorry. I might need a second to like get myself back together. Don't apologize. You're fine. Oh, you're fine. Okay. So Lalo was one of the most influential authors of the Friendsim in terms of writing some very favorite characters of ours. And yet Lalo preferred to have a panel that was text only instead of via video or voice. And I know that they had some concerns about, well, will this panel be successful? Is anyone interested in a text-only Q&A? But I was just so happy to have a text-based panel kind of as a template for the future, because I really want to be able to emphasize Homestuck creators' preferences in terms of, if I can't do a panel physically, can I do one via text? And it was incredibly successful. There were so many people who asked questions. I think there was some interaction directly between fans and Lalo. There were also some questions that were developed beforehand that Lalo answered. And they had a great time, I know, and some fans had a great time as well. And just being able to appreciate all kinds of creators in the Homestuck community, whether or not they're able to host a panel that's physical or verbal, was a really good thing for us to do and kind of start a precedent for other creators in the future.
Yeah, it was definitely nice. And also for someone who sometimes I have a hard time just sitting down and listening to a whole thing or to watching a whole thing or whatever, to have like a different sort of panel that I can just read through.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. And I mean, as somebody who I was like sadly not able to be there to read all of the questions in real time, but reading back through it and checking in every now and then to see so much interaction and Lalo having so many questions and fans who were excited to talk to them about the characters that Lalo had created. I don't know, that panel in particular made me feel like warm and fuzzy inside. And maybe it's because I'm a writer as well. But that's one of those types of panels that we could not have hosted at a physical convention. And so I think it's particularly important for SAHcon to encourage events like that are digitally based, that allow more access to creators than a physical convention might. So I'm hoping that we'll have more things like that next year. And I'm glad that we set the precedent for it. And yeah, I'm really glad Lalo came on. Thanks, Lalo, if you ever listen.
Yeah, please let me know if you ever listen. So then we have JoJo Stuck, which I'm not a big JoJo fan, but I still watched the first part of it because it was just about kind of making fan content in general. So yeah, but as someone who like actually likes JoJo and knows anything about it, how is this
I think like the last time I was on this podcast, I mentioned specifically that I'm mainly a JoJo Twitter. This is not so much the case anymore. I fandom hop a lot, but JoJo is still one of my core fandoms, and I adore JoJo Stuck and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to an extent I could not describe. And so I'm actually friends with Griever, and we've talked a lot about JoJo Stuck prior to this panel. And so because the staff in the apartment are JoJo fans, Kat and I both love JoJo, we put this one on the TV actually in our living room while we were modding other channels. And so it's not something that I got to watch with 100% of my attention, but it was definitely there while I was working, and I appreciated it. I think Griever did just a great job like gathering questions and topics before his panel. I know he used Google Forms similar to the way that we did, to ask participants if they had any specific questions or topics they'd like to ask about. And he worked through them systematically, had so much good advice about, working on fan projects and being able to advertise yourself, being confident in your own work. I think it empowers. And I'm really excited about that because we always need more content. And I have to say also, like, seeing some of Griever's art on my TV while I was modding, like, some of my favorite JoJo characters just gave me, like, the extra boost forward with my mod duties. Because this was kind of midday towards evening. We were all fading. And then JoJo happened. And I felt very inspired. So I think the panel went great. And there's actually a picture somewhere in the world. I think we just sent it to Griever of Kat and Crow and I all just in the living room, like posing in front of the TV screen where his panel was airing, which is really funny, but not super savory because we all were stressed and the room was dark and I don't know the last time we ate.
Yeah.
It was funny for those of us who were there. But yeah, another great
That's
panel,
fair.
absolutely.
For sure. Ian, Nell, were there any other panels you wanted?
Oh, can we talk about the rave? The rave was cool.
Yeah, definitely talk about the rave. I was only there for the aftermath.
The rave was wild. I had to drop out because I had other things I had to do, but it was maybe one of the few panels that had, like, no technical difficulties.
Oh.
And it's just, I don't know how this person found us, but they were like live DJ'd a whole set through some magic by, like, straight into the Discord channel, like straight into the Discord audio chat. So we had set up like a chat room just for them, and they were the only person with speaking permissions, and they just, like, did it live.
It was awesome.
It was
that
crazy.
rave was just, God, it was like
so
the
awesome.
exact boost of adrenaline I needed tonight.
My favorite thing was they somehow had a link up so that you could also catch their
Yes.
video of them doing it through it, and it turns out they were just, like, wearing like a full-on God Tier Dave cosplay.
They
Oh my
took
God.
it to the next
I was
level. Like this, I've been to a lot of
It
raves.
was
This was
super
pretty
crazy.
dope.
I've never been to a rave before. This was
We
pretty
have
good.
both perspectives here.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I was the one modding the chat after the rave happened, and it got a lot of people together. I think I mentioned this a bit on the last episode too, but, like, everyone was really friendly. It's like they had gotten closer together because of being a part of this rave, and they all made a document to give each other's pester chum handles and get together on there and talk some more. And
oh my God, Pastor Sun's still
It
being
is
used.
now. I think it was
Apparently,
partially because
yeah.
of this rave that people were so emotional about, like, this con happened and this rave is great. I don't want to leave.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of people talking like that, and it was, I don't know, it was so wholesome to just, like, see everyone talking about their favorite music and suggest it to others.
And you
Getting
know,
on
as a
Pester Chum
mod
and stuff.
who was just in so many other channels who went completely south throughout the day, when I did visit the rave and I listened for as long as I could before I had to do other staff duties, it really was the most wholesome. Like, people were so united in that rave. I'm very impressed by what our DJ was able to pull off, and I definitely, let's put some links in our description and get the name out there after this episode.
For sure,
I
yeah.
don't know. Like, I don't think they left us any links is the thing.
Oh,
That's,
really?
like,
They
the worst
because
part
they were
about it is
so humble. They were just
they have, like,
incredibly
zero
humble. Like,
internet
people.
presence.
Oh yeah, people were begging to give them
and
money in the chat.
I just, like, so we were non-monetized as a convention. This was done there. We had no money coming in, and we were all doing this as volunteers and just people who love Homestuck and wanted to see the community come together. And so
idiots who liked Homestuck
exactly.
so much needed a convention for it.
And so seeing people, you know, beg to give money to this particular event was incredible. And I just respect the humility of our awesome DJ. Like, again, I listened just like off the charts. It was dope. So I think the rave was by far one of the most successful events that we hosted.
Oh yeah,
it brought a lot of people together.
No, that was great. And what also brought a lot of people together that I still saw people talking about a lot after the con ended was the was it draw pile, or did we end up using something else?
I have no idea.
Yeah, the art one where people got on together and like stuff and made their own things. Like, people were still fighting each other on Twitter after the event by saying, "Hey, who drew this?
Draw
I
pile
want to
was
be your
fantastic."
friend."
And I'm just going to call it draw pile. I don't know if others were calling it something different, but
yeah,
I was also so relieved as a staff member to see that the vast majority of people who were participating in this event just made it a collaborative space with no issues. Like, I think the mod team only had to take action against a single offensive image. Maybe there were more. I only knew of one. And it was dealt with really swiftly. And other than that, no problems. I mean, we have multiple full canvases of just the best art. And I know that as staff, we've discussed making like an archive of it on our website, because there is some choice work on some of those canvases. They need to be preserved forever. So we'll look into posting some of those archives like on our Twitter or our...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I've never really dealt with drop piles before, but I just thought it was really nice. Like, on the pages, like, someone drew a bench and then everyone else drew whatever character's interacting with the bench, like sitting on it or laying under it or whatever. And I don't know, I just like how everyone was able to come together and just be chill and
that's
draw.
Again, it's one of those things that at a physical convention you couldn't really host a gathering like that.
Just people drawing on the same page together.
I mean, this and, you know, like the text panels we had with Lalo, like there are just certain things about an online convention that they wouldn't. And this was such a experience. And I think the draw pile is one of the prime examples of that.
Yeah. Oh, Nell, you want to talk about the panel you were on, Homestuck and Metamodernism?
There's not really much to say. It was just a lot of fun to be on. It was me and Aisha and Sarah Zeidig, and we briefly talked about how Homestuck fits into at least the textual convention of metamodernism, as a literary framework. And then we just sort of talked about the comic in general for like 2 straight hours, which was great because like I was super burned out going into that panel, and it was very nice to just have like a conversation and just talk about it and just like have fun for a while. And it just was really reinvigorating, and the conversation was great, and I just it was just super cool to be able to talk to like Sarah, who's like a decently sized YouTuber, and Aisha, who obviously like headed the whole Friend Sim project and is writing Act 2, and like just talk to them. It was great. It was awesome, and everybody in the chat was super cool and like down for us just sort of having a rambling conversation about Homestuck in general.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I listened to it after the fact, and it was great. And I'm so happy because Sarah, I started getting into Sarah just like a couple weeks before she first appeared on the PGen pod. And I didn't know that she was big into Homestuck and everything. And I'm like, oh, this is a cool YouTuber. And it's like, oh, she's on the PGen podcast. Oh, she has a panel at SAHcon. And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it was great. It was super fun. Sarah's awesome. Sarah's just a great person.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. And I'll just briefly mention again because I have to hype myself. Like I mentioned it in the last episode, a panel, and it was a lot of fun. Everyone was really great. You can find that on my YouTube, which I have links to below, but it was called Jax Does Homestuck Gays and Girls, and that was a lot of fun too. People were very engaged. But like I said, I talked about that a lot on the last one. Is there any other panels you want to talk about, or we could talk about kind of the wind down after the
I'd say let's go to wind down. I mean, I could just talk forever about panels, because I know I've said this, but again, like, our panelists were incredibly generous for sharing their talents and their thoughts with us, and
and their time as
some
well.
of these panelists just spent so much time working on their panels. I mean, I could talk forever, but incredibly grateful. Like, all of those panels are fantastic, so I'd say let's move on before I take up like 3 episodes worth.
So after the panel, we had all that calm down time on the mod voice chat, and I think we're still kind of recovering after. Because I know, like, for me, like, I've only been a part of the of SAHcon, like, Chrome mentioned it to me a couple of months ago, and so I kind of knew that it might be a thing, but I didn't officially get invested in it until my panel got accepted, which I was really excited for. And even I'm still recovering after. Like, I'm joking that I have con crud, because I happened to get a cold like right after I got done with right after we got done with SAHcon, but you guys were invested with it so much and so much more. So I imagine that guys are
stress will destroy your immune system. So digital con crud, we discovered, is so real. Like, there were multiple staff members and mods, and I think even attendees, who just spent their whole day in front of the computer, who got sick after. And I feel bad, but at the same time, I enjoyed our con. But digital con crud is valid.
No, it was worth it. Yeah, no, I definitely had it, because I didn't get up. I maybe got up like twice to go to the bathroom, but I had like 3 different drinks around me. I had a whole medium pizza next to me, and chips and everything. So I was set.
God, I did not properly hydrate at all.
Kat and I actually had to yell at Crow multiple times to drink water. Like, we had to get passive aggressive with them to be like, Crow, drink this fucking glass of water. We put it next to you. It's been an hour. Drink it. We tried.
Oh my God, yeah.
We tried really hard to take care of each other, at least in the con apartment hub. And I know that some of the mods and the staff were also encouraging that to hydrate. Like, we would, at least I did, and I think I saw some other mods. Please drink water. Please go get food. So hopefully people took care of themselves, but
I didn't.
You got to do better next year, Nell. You got to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Next
maybe
next year.
If there's next year, I guess we can talk about that later.
Well, I think everybody involved has been excited at the prospect of next year. It's just like a lot of work, like to put on a convention.
We've
for
all
no money.
We're interested, but I think we've all, because, like, I know for me, I can't believe it was what 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago. Time is nebulous. And it doesn't. Time is
doesn't
fake.
exist.
I know, like, I was completely dead inside
fake.
for days afterward. I work a freelance job where I have very strict deadlines that come at short notice. And so I did have some work to do the next day, and I don't think I've ever been more of a zombie in my life. Like, I didn't get complaints, so I guess what I wrote was fine. But I have no recollection of doing that day, the day after SAHcon. I will still occasionally check the staff and the mod chats in the Discord in a complete panic, because I think I haven't looked at it in 6 hours. I have to have missed something, and
Yeah.
or I need to schedule a meeting for everyone. It's been an
Oh,
adjustment
God,
after
yeah.
so many months
Yeah.
of us working daily, just all the time, having this on our mind. It's been weird to not have to worry about it so much and to shift our focus to whenever, whatever comes next.
Yeah, I know even me and some of the other mods who were brought on like last minute, like we still had panics about,
Yeah.
wait, where am I scheduled to be now?
Because it was a very intense day. I think the con, again, time is fake. I think the con ran for 14
Yeah.
hours, but it's hard for me to tell when it started and ended. But even the mods who worked on it during the day,
Yeah.
I mean, that was over half a day of very intensive moderating. Everyone who was with us, I can't imagine, is still kind of confused by, oh, what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, because I was at the computer, like I woke up at like 6:30 and I ate breakfast, got everything spread out around me, and I was at the computer from like 7 until when I got off call at like
Yeah.
1 or 2 or something
We all
in the morning.
scheduled, so when Nell and I were making
So
moderator schedule, we did our best to make sure that everybody had at least 2 hours throughout the day where they didn't have to do 2 1-hour breaks. And we would love to have had more breaks,
yeah.
but again, we were stretched so thin with moderation. And so
Yeah.
when we did have breaks, gosh, I know actually during my break, I had to go do my job. And so, and I know that was probably the same for other moderators as well, because some of our moderators were also working their own Artist Alley channel. And so we had a lot of people who were just juggling
Yeah.
multiple responsibilities. And I don't know, I'm proud of all of us. It was rough. Again, like, we have to have more mods next year, and that's something that we'll definitely work on.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like part of my breaks, I was on my panel that I mentioned, but I was also on Anna's um Broadway Stuck panel. So yeah, and that ended up running longer than I thought it would. So that was a lot of my break too. But it was a lot of fun. Like it was so much.
But
It was
that's
so much, but it
every
was fun.
con. I mean, I know that's all about every. I
Yeah.
personally cosplay, and so I have that week or 2 weeks of con crunch where I barely get any sleep because all of my free time is spent trying to finish my cosplay, and then I go to the con, and then my feet hurt. And then, I'm not home.
Yeah.
I don't eat as well as I probably should. Like, it truly, in one day, this did mirror a full weekend of a physical con experience.
Nice.
It was so intense.
Yeah. Yeah, so we talked a lot about future plans and fixes for next time. Was there anything else you
we've
guys wanted
talked
to bring
about
up?
so many things while we've just been discussing, because I think they're all in our minds constantly. Like, the staff just really, we
Yeah.
wanted to make this the best that we could, and I think that we truly did, given the resources we had. But all of us care deeply about this project, and so constantly we've been thinking about, like, what do we do next time, and we can't get it out of our head.
Yeah, there's like we need to change how we structured the convention. Discord is a great platform, but it's the number of channels we had was simply like there were too many. We had too many channels, just in general, and it made it hard for people to navigate. And we don't have a good solution, but that's something we wanna work towards.
It's definitely a matter of, like, I agree with that. Just in terms of, we had enough channels to distribute our attendees. And at the same time, like less channels would be nice.
It's just
yeah,
the organization was, I think, more the issue, not the
right. I think
content.
It's more organization rather than channels. The matter of moderating, like modifying what we currently have, it's always, you have to balance.
It's just like breaking things up. Like, we need to know, like the artist alley was huge to scroll through every time you wanted to get to the panel rooms from the top. There's a lot of little things that we need to think about. Digital, like a lot of like physical cons have to think about con traffic, and we have to think about con layout, like just like a physical con, except
right. And I know we made a lot of changes during our planning. Like our Discord set up entirely differently than the way that we decided on for the convention. Yeah, everything was so fluid in our planning, and even during the convention, we were adding, removing, modifying depending on feedback. And so we really will value attendee feedback, and I think that's something we want to do as well. Is I know we've opened up feedback forms for artists and mods, but I personally would love to have a feedback form for attendees as well, and just figure out how can we make this convention easier to navigate, more fun to attend. And in terms of organization or anything else, we have a lot of fixes, but we didn't attend it, we ran it. And so having that other perspective will be really valuable as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the whole thing of SAHcon. There's a lot there to talk. I'm sure we could talk about like a billion more things. Is there anything else real quick that you want to make sure to mention?
In terms of future plans, I will say that there's definitely plans for more. I don't know exactly who of us will be involved in terms of staff and moderators, but a lot of us are very interested in seeing how this moves forward. We were really happy with how successful it was, and we're all very invested in Homestuck and the fandom, and we'd love to see something else something else that brings together fans like this did. So we don't have official announcements for SAHcon 2 or anything like that, but we do have a lot of ideas, and so we encourage all of you to keep an eye out.
For sure, yeah. And there'll be links to all the SAHcon stuff and everything below. While I'm here,
Sorry, it sounds like you broke up a little bit.
Oh, no, that's fine. So is there anything you guys want to promote for any
promotion? Yeah, for sure. So I'm most active on Twitter. My Twitter is @Raptor_redeem. I am more of a Homestuck Twitter now than I was the last time I was on this podcast. Since I was last here, I did finish Homestuck, and I have started writing some Homestuck fan fiction. So I've just given myself entirely to that. Wish me luck. So yeah, if you'd like to come see things that I write or create or tweet about, please come follow me there. I also have a Patreon, which I'm sure Jax will link below. Probably easier than me listing everything. Sure. I have a Patreon and I'm primarily a writer. I am a professional writer. I work mostly in content writing, but I also do a ton of fan fiction, and particularly LGBTQ fiction is my passion. So fan fiction, original fiction, you'll see it from me. SAHcon was my biggest Homestuck project. It's over now for the moment. I am currently working on Stuck that I'll be contributing to, which we can put the link below. And other than following me on Twitter or checking out my Patreon or Ko-fi, I don't know if there's too much else to talk about. I write a lot, and I like fandoms, and I talk about a lot of ships. So enjoy those.
Sure. And Nell, do you have anything?
I'm at Nelchromancer on Twitter, and I occasionally write fanfic, but mostly I just use big words on Twitter.com to say meaningful things about a webcomic from
So you're
2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit sometimes unintentionally. Follow me. I do things. No, I don't. I tweet a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's good enough. That's definitely, I mean, we need those tweets out there to get us all thinking. Yeah, you guys might notice that I've changed up my website a little bit. That's jaxdoeshomestuck.com. I've started using a separate Twitter instead of my main Twitter. I now have jaxdoeshs for my Twitter handle. So I'm going to be changing those links below and everything so you guys can check that out. That way, if you don't want to see all my ramblings, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you can just follow that one for all the Homestuck updates. Or the podcast updates. And as always, I have my links to my Patreon and everything down below. Patrons do get access to other projects I'm working on that I'm not public with yet, as well as other bonus content I have. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Nell and Rhys,
so much,
for
Jax.
coming on.
No, I had a great time.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I got to be on here again.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun having you guys on. But and I will see you guys next week with probably it should be Intermission.